In a world that cries out for sustainability, how can we turn a blind eye to the damage caused by conventional agriculture? The promise of abundant and low-cost food supply comes at a price that is far too high. Environmental devastation, social crises, and an uncertain future for the next generations. As global communities struggle with water scarcity, the deterioration of human health, and the irreversible loss of biodiversity, a crucial question arises. Are we cultivating a disaster? In this video, we will uncover the 10 most severe problems of conventional agriculture, revealing not only how they affect our planet and our people, but also how they threaten the very essence of life on Earth. Get ready to confront uncomfortable truths and brace yourself for the most severe problem at the end. The 10 most severe problems of conventional agriculture are ranked from the least to the most critical. Then, leave in the comments which problem you think should be prioritized. So, in 10th place, the problem is dependence on subsidies. The dependence on government subsidies to sustain conventional agriculture has profound economic and environmental implications, reflecting the complexity and challenges faced by the modern agricultural sector. This dependence not only questions the true economic viability of this agricultural model, but also perpetuates practices that can be harmful to the environment and unsustainable in the long term. Government subsidies are often justified as necessary to keep food prices low for consumers and ensure national food security. However, this practice can lead to significant distortions in the agricultural market, such as market distortion, economic inefficiencies, and resource misallocation. The dependence on subsidies not only affects the economy, but also has direct impacts on the environment through the promotion of unsustainable practices and reduction of ecological resilience. To move toward a more sustainable future, it is essential for policymakers to reconsider subsidy schemes and begin to align financial support with practices that promote environmental sustainability and economic efficiency. This could include investing in innovative agricultural technologies, supporting the transition to organic or regenerative agriculture, and developing policies that encourage resilient and sustainable farming practices. In 9th place, the problem with conventional agriculture is economic vulnerability. Conventional agriculture, highly dependent on external inputs and fossil fuels, faces significant challenges that put its economic stability at risk. The economic vulnerability of conventional agriculture, especially in the context of monocultures, deeply affects the stability and sustainability of the agricultural sector. This agricultural model, with its intense reliance on single-crop cultivation, faces challenges that go beyond dependence on petroleum-derived inputs. It is also particularly sensitive to climate variations, market fluctuations, and biological threats such as pests and diseases. The economic vulnerabilities of monoculture-based conventional agriculture manifest in several dimensions, such as income instability, rising costs, and long-term risks. The economic vulnerability of monoculture-based conventional agriculture highlights the urgent need for crop diversification and the adoption of more sustainable and resilient agricultural practices. Exploring sustainable alternatives, such as organic agriculture or low-carbon practices, can not only reduce this dependence, but also promote greater economic and environmental resilience. Another serious problem of conventional agriculture, in 8th place, is community displacement. The displacement of rural and indigenous communities by large agricultural operations represents one of the most severe and deeply transformative social impacts of conventional agriculture. This process not only changes the physical landscape, but also dismantles community life networks, cultural traditions, and local livelihood systems that have been sustained for generations. The expansion of large-scale agriculture often involves the appropriation of land and natural resources, imposing radical changes that affect the social and environmental fabric of the affected areas. The displacement of communities by conventional agriculture is a complex issue that requires careful consideration of human rights, environmental sustainability, and social justice. In the long term, the viability of these large agricultural operations will be questioned as social and environmental costs become unsustainable. Promoting dialogue among stakeholders, including affected communities, agricultural companies, governments, and NGOs, is essential to finding solutions that respect community rights and foster sustainable agricultural practices that benefit everyone. In seventh place, soil degradation. Soil degradation is one of the most critical and least reversible effects of conventional agriculture. The practices adopted in this agricultural model, centered on maximizing short-term productivity, have devastating consequences for soil vitality, impacting its structure, composition, and functional capacity. Intensive tillage often leads to the formation of a compacted layer below the tilled surface, known as a plowpan, which can restrict root penetration and water movement, limiting plant access to essential nutrients and moisture. The removal of the topsoil exposes the subsoil to erosion by wind and water. Without the protection of vegetation or organic cover, the eroded soil loses its essential nutrients and organic matter, significantly reducing its fertility. Regarding the excessive use of chemical fertilizers, while they temporarily increase plant productivity, these fertilizers can cause an imbalance in soil nutrients. Excess nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, are often leached into adjacent water bodies, causing eutrophication, which can lead to the death of aquatic organisms due to oxygen depletion and excessive algae growth. Soil degradation caused by conventional agriculture is a serious environmental problem that threatens future agricultural production capacity and global food sustainability. Restoring soil health requires a fundamental shift in agricultural practices, including the adoption of conservation-based techniques such as regenerative agriculture, agroforestry systems, crop rotation, and no-till farming. In sixth place, we have greenhouse gas emissions. Conventional agriculture is one of the main sectors responsible for greenhouse gas emissions, playing a significant role in global warming and climate change. These emissions are a direct result of various conventional agricultural practices, including the intensive use of fossil fuels by agricultural machinery for the production and transportation of inputs, degradation of organic soil through reduced carbon sequestration capacity and emissions of nitrous oxide, methane release from agricultural practices through livestock production, which has serious implications and direct consequences for the global climate. The increase of these gases in the atmosphere contributes to the greenhouse effect, leading to global warming and changes in climate patterns. To mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and promote a sustainable future, it is crucial that conventional agriculture be restructured. This includes adopting regenerative agriculture practices, transitioning to renewable energy systems, implementing soil management practices that enhance carbon sequestration, and reforming livestock systems to reduce methane emissions. In fifth place, we have pollution from pesticides and fertilizers. The pollution caused by the extensive use of synthetic pesticides and fertilizers is one of the most serious problems associated with conventional agriculture. These chemicals, although designed to increase agricultural productivity by eliminating pests and supplementing the soil with nutrients, have far-reaching environmental and health consequences that affect not only local habitats, but also have global impacts. Pesticides can kill not only target pests, but also beneficial organisms that play crucial roles in maintaining soil health, such as pollinators, beneficial insects, and microorganisms that aid in organic matter decomposition and nitrogen fixation. The leaching of pesticides and fertilizers into water bodies is one of the most pernicious consequences of their use, leading to issues like eutrophication and contamination of groundwater. The volatilization of pesticides and the dispersion of fertilizer particles can contaminate the air, affecting environmental quality and public health. Exposure to pesticides and fertilizers can have devastating effects on human health and biodiversity. It is imperative to seek more sustainable alternatives, such as biological pest control methods, organic fertilization, and regenerative agricultural practices that can minimize dependence on chemical inputs and mitigate these negative impacts. In fourth place, we have impacts on human health. The impacts of chemicals, animal antibiotics, and genetically modified organisms, GMOs, used in conventional agriculture on human health are profound and alarming. Exposure to pesticides, herbicides, and synthetic fertilizers, common components in this agricultural model, is increasingly linked to a wide range of serious health problems. These issues include cancer, neurological disorders, and various reproductive problems. The use of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and the application of antibiotics in intensive animal production systems are common practices in modern agriculture. These practices can lead to the development of antibiotic resistance, negatively impacting the effectiveness of medical treatments in humans. Human exposure to agricultural chemicals can occur in several ways: occupational exposure, environmental exposure, and food exposure. In the case of animal antibiotics and genetically modified organisms, exposure primarily occurs through food consumption. Given the severity of these impacts, it is crucial for global public health to reconsider and regulate the use of these organisms and substances in both agriculture and livestock production. In third place, we have genetic erosion and contamination. The use of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, in agriculture raises concerns about the genetic contamination of traditional varieties cultivated nearby. GMOs can transfer genes to traditional varieties through cross-pollination. This transfer can occur between adjacent fields or through pollinating agents like bees and wind. Genetic contamination can alter the genetic characteristics of traditional plants, introducing new, unwanted traits that can disrupt local ecosystems and affect biodiversity. Genetic contamination also threatens agricultural diversity, as traditional varieties and local cultivars may be lost, leading to genetic erosion, which we may never be able to recover. Genetic contamination can compromise these varieties, affecting the autonomy of local communities and their sustainable agricultural practices. It is crucial to implement strict measures to restrict the use of GMOs and to promote alternatives that preserve the integrity of traditional varieties. In second place is loss of biodiversity. The loss of biodiversity is one of the most disturbing effects of conventional agriculture, especially due to the practice of monoculture and the intensive use of herbicides and pesticides. Monoculture, the practice of cultivating a single plant species over large areas of land, is common in conventional agriculture. This method has several negative implications for biodiversity and ecosystem health, such as deforestation of native forests for monoculture cultivation, reduction of genetic diversity, soil life depletion, and the death of organisms present in water bodies. Herbicides and pesticides are used to control weeds, pests, and diseases, but their indiscriminate use has severe side effects, such as decline of non-target species, habitat contamination, and pesticide resistance. The loss of biodiversity due to monoculture and chemical use increases the vulnerability of ecosystems to disturbances like diseases and climate change. This results in several practical problems for agriculture, including vulnerability to diseases and pests and reduction of ecosystem services. Monoculture and the extensive use of herbicides and pesticides in conventional agricultural systems pose a significant threat to biodiversity and ecological resilience. Practices that promote species diversity and ecosystem integrity are not only beneficial for the environment, but are also essential for the long-term sustainability of agriculture. Alternatives like regenerative agriculture, permaculture, and agroforestry offer viable paths to reduce these negative impacts, promoting a more diverse, resilient, and productive future for global agriculture. And in first place, among the most severe problems is water resource depletion. The depletion of water resources in conventional agriculture is a problem exacerbated not only by the intensive use of irrigation, but also by deforestation associated with agricultural expansion. This model of agriculture, which prioritizes short-term yield maximization, often leads to the deforestation of large forest areas, with devastating consequences for natural hydrological cycles and the stability of ecosystems. Irrigation is a fundamental practice in conventional agriculture, especially in arid and semi-arid regions where natural rainfall does not meet the water needs of crops. However, inefficient irrigation methods and excessive water use significantly contribute to the depletion of water resources. Irrigation techniques, such as flooding and sprinkling, often result in significant water loss through evaporation, surface runoff, and improper percolation, reducing water use efficiency and increasing overall consumption. Moreover, dependence on groundwater for irrigation can lead to the lowering of aquifer levels, an often irreversible condition that reduces water availability for future use and causes environmental impacts such as soil subsidence. Now, regarding deforestation and hydrological consequences, we must consider that forests play a crucial role in maintaining regional humidity through the process of evapotranspiration, where water is absorbed by tree roots and released back into the atmosphere through the leaves. Deforestation reduces this capacity, decreasing local rainfall formation and contributing to a drier climate and desertification conditions. The depletion of water resources and the impacts of deforestation in conventional agriculture have severe implications for environmental, economic, and social sustainability. Sustainable water resource management and forest conservation are essential to mitigate the negative impacts of conventional agriculture, ensuring water availability for future generations and the preservation of vital ecosystems. As we reach the end of this critical exploration, it becomes clear that the challenges posed by conventional agriculture are not merely obstacles to be overcome. They are an urgent call for action and change. Each problem discussed, from the dependence on unsustainable subsidies to the alarming pollution from pesticides, is not just an isolated failure, but a symptom of a deeply flawed system that needs to be reformed. This video has not only addressed your initial concerns, but also illuminated the path toward a fairer and more sustainable agriculture. Armed with knowledge, it is up to us as global citizens to push for responsible agricultural policies, adopt sustainable practices, and support farmers in transitioning to methods that respect both the land and humanity. The journey may be long, but every step in the right direction is a step away from the brink toward a future where we can all thrive. See you soon, and let's walk toward a bountiful earth.